Hi, the purpose of this video is to help you get started doing the actual interview that you're going to do here pretty soon. And interviewing can be really intimidating, especially if it's your first time. You haven't done an interview like as a manager for an organization or something. But rule number one, they are the expert. Your interviewee is the expert of this topic. And use some icebreakers to help get them talking and to get their story. But also reassure them that you want to learn about this topic. That you came here because there's somebody that's had these experiences, and those experiences are going to help us learn more about this topic. And that you regard them as the expert and you want to know more about their experiences and to hear a lot from them. Now a little bit about the icebreaker. Those could be questions that you write out before you go into the interview. How was your day? How are things going? But you can also, if you're good at doing this on the fly, you can look around the house if you're at their house and see, oh, there's a trophy, a dance trophy. Do you dance? Oh, yes, I do. Here's a ribbon from a 5K. Are you a runner? And you can get them talking about their hobbies, their interests, the thing they like. That'll be great. But the key is to get them talking first and to get them feeling like the expert so that they'll give you their story. Throughout the interview, remember, they talk 99% of the time. If you talk more than 1% of the time, then you're going to be taking over the interview from them, and they're the expert. You want them to talk. So encourage them to talk and keep talking. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you can do that. At the end, thank them for giving you this valuable information, for being the expert. It's also really nice to share the results of your project with them after you're done. And if you do plan to do that, and you know that you really will follow through with that, it's nice to tell them, after thanking them, that you plan to share the results with them, the results of your study. Something else that is a big deal is how you write the questions. These questions should be open-ended. You're not going to have very much luck getting them to keep talking if you ask questions like, do you like being a single parent? No. And then that's kind of a conversation killer because they can answer with yes or no. And then you're stuck as the interviewer coming up with what your question was really meant to be. So your question should be open-ended. A lot of times the best questions aren't even really questions, and you'll see a couple examples of that below. But they should also be broad enough. If you become too specific, you may be outside of their realm of expertise. So if you're interviewing single parents about their experiences, and you say, tell me about a time when there was a flood in your basement and you had to call upon neighbors to help you bail the water out of your basement. And you had to get the mayor involved to create better programs in the city. They don't have any such experience and they have nothing to tell you about. So these should be broad enough. So it can be pretty effective most of the time to start with very, very broad questions and then move to a little more specific, but still broad enough. So you might start with something like, tell me what it's like being a single parent. How do you feel about being a single parent? And you can move just a little more specific, like tell me a time that was discouraging for you as a single parent, or who do you think provides you the most support in your experiences as a single parent? And you can see that a couple of these are questions, but the first one's not even a question, it's just a tell me statement. And that can be an effective way to design an interview question as well, especially for these very broad questions. Tell me a little bit about X. Now, number 3, keep bias out. And you're going to see that I have slide after slide after slide on this. Leave your opinions at home. Why? Because they're the expert, and this is about them. You want them to talk 99% of the time. As tempting as it is, leave your opinions at home. You're there to get the data, collect the data. Think of a census worker going around asking, what's your age, what's your income? And if the census worker said, no, I don't like that age, I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about the income, I'm going to change it. You're corrupting the data. So, as tempting as it may be, don't do it. Do not lead the witness. How do we lead the witness, the interviewee? We say, don't you think this? Don't you agree that? And that comes into play in writing your interview questions. Don't write it into your question. Just avoid the temptation. You should not have an interview question that says, most single parents get frustrated with raising their children without support. Tell me about your frustration. Let them tell about their frustrations if they have any. All parents do have some frustrations. So kind of avoid those don't you think, don't you agree type questions. And in your follow-up questions. And avoid agreeing or disagreeing after they give their answers. This is the thing that I see tempt students the most. They love to agree, especially with their interviewees, and they feel like it's going to keep them talking. Yes, you're right, good. Yes, I agree with that. I've had the same experience. Let me tell you about an experience. And we kind of do that in our common conversations, but in an interview, keep your bias out. Keep the bias at home. Avoid agreeing after their statements. How do you avoid agreeing? I'm going to tell you about that right now. So instead of saying, yes, I agree, that's right, I think so, try some of these out. You might even want to take these from this slide and write them down. Is that right? Oh, how interesting. Tell me more about that. Or the combo. How interesting. Can you tell me more about that? A lot of the greatest interviewers I've ever seen are great at the ellipsis, these 3 little dots, but they use them in speech. So it's something like this. Okay, so you told me that your son had an incident in school, so... And they're good at just leaving sort of that moment of silence, and people don't like silence a lot of the time, and they'll jump in and start talking. So you can try that if you're very brave. I've used it with much success. Or just simply ask them to elaborate on something. That shows that you're interested in what they talked about. Oh, you said that your child was bullied at school. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened there? And people love that, and they respond, and it tells them that they're the expert and that you want them to keep talking. And at the same time, you're avoiding saying, yes, I agree. Oh, that's right. Because that's going to tell them that you think they should be saying certain things, or that you're encouraging them to talk more about certain things. If you affirm some things more than others, they think, oh, that's what the interviewer wants to hear. So leave that bias at home. Do not feel obligated to agree. It'll, again, like I say, it will make them think that certain things are right or wrong, and it's going to take over their expert status. Just let them be the expert and say, is that right? Tell me more about that. How interesting. Other ways of encouraging? Well, we talked about these key phrases. Use them plentifully. Like I say, write them down, practice them, memorize them. Voracious head nodding. And I'm not talking about the assenting kind. Remember, we're not saying, yes, you're right, I agree with you. But the kind that says, tell me more, like the half-squinted eyes, the head moving forward a little bit, and you're just saying, maybe your hand moves like this once in a while. Oh, I see. It tells them that you're interested, you're engaged. The I'm engaged, slight head nod. Not too much, But especially if you're taking notes, sometimes they think, what, did this person go to doodling or writing a book because they're not interested in me? So as you're writing, you kind of say, very, oh, I see, very interesting. And thank them after they give each answer. People love that and respond very well to that. Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me about that and about your personal experiences, and then ask the next question. Some of this may feel a little unnatural to you, but I hope you'll try it. Practice it in front of a mirror if you need. Practice it with your roommates. Practice it with your family members or your spouse, and get comfortable doing things like not agreeing after people say things. Get comfortable with saying things like, is that right? Tell me more. How interesting. And if you're able to master some of these tips, you'll have a great interview. And I wish you all good luck. And as always, contact me if you have any questions or comments. Thanks. And again, best of luck. I look forward to seeing the results of these wonderful interviews.